For today's video, I wanted to list my most anticipated VR games still to come in 2025, starting with Gunman Contracts. This is a fully standalone version of the mods that you can play in Half-Life Alyx called Gunman Contracts Chapters 1 and 2, but this is now being taken to the next level and being built from the ground up for PCVR and flat screen. You play a professional hitman, simply known as the Gunman. You have a large arsenal of weapons at your disposal, featuring pistols, rifles, shotguns and knives, and even a bow to take down the ruthless criminals in some of the most aggressive and immersive ways possible yet seen in VR. If the mods are anything to go by, you can expect every kill to feel extremely satisfying with some great death animations and real bullet physics. After going hands-on with Aces of Thunder in early access last month, I'm very excited to check out the full release whenever it happens, because it was a way more realistic flight sim than I expected, but I actually really like the challenge. Aces of Thunder will have a single player campaign and multiplayer. Hopefully we'll get cross-platform support, which will bring more players to fill the skies online, making it something extremely competitive and compelling. Aces of Thunder will launch with 50 maps from 3 key theatres from the Second World War, based on the Western and Eastern Pacific fronts, and will have 20 faithfully recreated aircraft. Unfortunately, we still have no release date for the PSVR 2 and PCVR version, but I'm hoping we hear something soon, especially after they let me and other creators go hands-on in early access. Forefront is aiming to bring us a true VR Battlefield experience by dropping you into a near-future warfare playground with 32 players across expansive battlefields. Players can get in multiple land, air and sea vehicles and fight on large-scale maps with dynamic and game-changing destruction. There's going to be a ton of new weapons, vehicles, gadgets and player classes, and Triangle Factory is aiming to raise the bar for immersive gunplay and tactical depth in VR. This is coming from the same team that made Hyperdash and Breaches, and it's already looking a high-quality VR experience, and it's coming to MetaQuest 2, 3, Pico and Steam VR by the end of 2025. Next up, we have another great looking VR flying game called the Mighty 8th VR, which puts you in the cockpit of a B-17 flying fortress at the height of a strategic bombing campaign over Europe. And the most exciting part of this game is you get to play it online in co-op with up to 9 other people. And if you can't get that many players with you, you'll have AI to assist you. There's no release date right now, but I've been following the publisher's microprose over on X, and it does look extremely good, and hopefully we'll hear something soon. Remanat Protocol is a meta-funded VR space sim, and it's coming later this year to MetaQuest but also Steam. In Remanat Protocol, you'll be part of a rebel alliance called the eponymous Remanat, and you have to take down the oppressive empire, and only you can stop them. You'll be in the cockpit engaging in dogfights between missions of the campaign that have some strategy elements. You'll be doing research, planning, manufacturing, gathering intelligence, recruiting pilots, forging alliances to then set off as a group to take on the next mission. The developers have said this will be a living, breathing universe filled with shifting alliances, and it will have procedurally generated missions combined with a dynamic story. So far, this sounds pretty cool. Into the Radius 2 is clearly not a new VR release, but it is coming to MetaQuest 3 next week, and it's one of my favourite survival VR games that constantly pulls me back in with every single new update, especially the most recent one called Ghost Town, which featured some huge War of the Worlds style boss I'd never seen before, and it's constantly evolving in early access. After experiencing what the developers did with the Inter-Radius port for Quest 3 and the Quest 3 enhancements, I'm pretty excited to see how this new sequel runs on a standalone device. Beyond Sandbox has been growing in popularity due to showing some pretty advanced VR physical interactions with some beautiful graphics, and it's coming to PCVR and MetaQuest, and it's powered by Unreal Engine 5. It offers a playground for both players and creators to redefine virtual reality experiences, and I think you'll agree when you see some of the incredible interactions and realistic looking weapons and melee combat. It looks like something especially the Boneworks crowd will really enjoy. The procedural grip system they're adding does look pretty mind-blowing, and it'll also feature multiplayer when you can either compete or collaborate using in-game tools. Next, we have Memoreum from Patient 8 Games, and it's coming to PCVR and MetaQuest. I went hands-on in a very early state for a gameplay video, and it played extremely well and delivered that Dead Space horror vibes a lot of us want to experience in VR. Memoreum has been built from the ground up by the same team that made the Half-Life Alyx Return to Rapture mod. The story of Memoreum begins at the end of a dying Earth. humanity sends a colony spaceship, the UCT Century Dawn, on a mission to find a new home. You fast forward nearly 200 years and you are suddenly awoken from hypersleep to discover something has gone horribly wrong and an infection known as I-Core has spread throughout the ship. The I-Core infection, as you can see from this trailer, causes some dead space-like creatures to emerge. You can expect a 10-hour-long campaign with multiple endings, and as I said, from what I've played, I've got no doubts this game will deliver. Next we have Robo Quest, and it's a VR port coming from Flactive VR Studios. It's a fast-paced first-person shooter with roguelike mechanics, and it's playable in single-player or two-player co-op. You must run and gun your way through randomly generated environments, pick up upgrades along the way, and blast away the big powerful bosses you encounter. You get to upgrade your base camp and unlock persistent upgrades to customize your playstyle, and therefore get to dive further in on each subsequent run. The cel-shaded graphics look really awesome in VR, and I'm hoping by looking at this trailer we haven't got long to wait for a release date. Zombie Army VR is coming to all platforms on May 22nd, and it might actually turn out to be decent after my pretty negative first impressions in August last year at Gamescom. There's some new developers involved who took over from XR Games, and they have shared they are working to make the best use of PCVR with a solid 90Hz refresh rate, eye tracking in combination with dynamic foveated rendering. They'll also include using adaptive triggers and headset rumble, which makes me believe if they're putting this amount of effort into the PSVR 2 version, then surely the Quest 3 and the PCVR version will also have a similar high effort put in. Unfortunately, I've now been told the embargo is for the 20th and it's now the 17th, and I've yet to receive a review copy for any platform, but I am hoping to hear something soon because I need to also test out the multiplayer for the review. On May the 22nd as well, Out of Sight, which is described as a first and second person atmospheric horror game, is coming to PCVR and Quest, with PSVR 2 following later on in the year. The game isn't actually released yet on flat screen, so the VR version will launch alongside that version, but from the trailers it does look pretty cool. You play a young blind girl called Sophie who can only see through her teddy bear's eyes. She has been captured and you must escape a creepy mansion full of puzzles. The next game on this list I've never actually spoken about, and that's because I've only played it recently, called Of Lies and Rain VR, and after checking it out for a gameplay video only earlier this week, it's looking pretty promising. It's coming to all platforms in the future and looks to deliver a cool narrative first-person shooter and has taken a lot of inspiration from games like Half-Life Alyx. The graphics were surprisingly good and the weapons felt really good too, but it was actually the in-game physics which made this game much more cooler and immersive than I expected. Star Wars Beyond Victory is coming to MetaQuest 3 and MetaQuest 3S, and it's called a mixed reality playset, but will also have some very cool VR implementation. It's set around the time of Solo: A Star Wars Story, and it seems to be mostly about pod racing. There's an adventure story mode which uses a combination of VR and MR, and you follow a character called Volo, an aspiring pod racer whose life gets flipped upside down under the mentorship of Sebulba. You can also experience the thrill of pod racing on a virtual hollow table. Regarding the playset feature, it looks like you'll be unlocking items as you play, and then you get to create a mixed reality room and fill it with your Star Wars virtual action figures and vehicles. So far, I'm pretty hyped about this one. Hard Bullet is coming to Quest on May the 27th. Now, I'm not always a fan of sandbox games, because I personally prefer a narrative-driven experience, but Hard Bullet is definitely the exception. Hard Bullet is a VR physics action game where tons of enemies filled the neon-lit city streets, and you get to use very cool slow motion. You have a huge arsenal of beautifully rendered weapons, brutal combat, and you must survive waves of enemies to unlock new weapons. If your idea of fun is absolutely torturing NPCs, Hard Bullet is definitely the game for you. To wrap up today's video, Dungeons of Eternity, which is an awesome co-op dungeon crawler, is coming to PCVR this summer and looks like a very impressive visual upgrade over the Quest 3 version, which is actually no slouch. In Dungeons of Eternity, you get to team up with up to 3 friends and take on never-ending procedurally generated worlds and challenges filled with a variety of enemies to level up and unlock a seemingly endless amount of weapons to make your character stronger and your next run even greater. Well, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you ever so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments if there's any games I've missed that I can add for the next new VR games video, and I'll see you all on the next one.